What innocent-sounding question is actually a massive red flag? Did you tell anyone you were coming to meet me? Those woods were scary, right? But hey, you're not the one that's gotta walk back through them alone. I believe it's supposed to go. What are you shaking for? You're not the one that has to walk back alone. This one, you just run away. Depends on whether or not you're meeting to buy drugs. If so, then run away after buying the drugs. Panicked. Ran away with the drug dealer. Please help. I asked my wife that on one of our first dates. Mostly because we were just doing that first couple of dates vibing and we met on OkCupid before it became shit, and I got the impression she didn't tell any of her friends that she was going on a date with somebody she met online. I told her even if we stop dating you should still do that. She was charmed that I was so protective of her. That is a flaming red flag, and it's time to GTFO. Mommy, what would happen if Teddy Bear got stuck in the toilet? Let's find out together. It was as if millions of plumbers suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. As if a million plumbers looked at the bill and thought about the lake house upgrades that Teddy Bear will pay for. Silence is golden. Unless it is a toddler, then silence is very suspicious. According to my mother, toddler me would usually narrate my life in real time. This allowed her to supervise from the next room. But if I ever went quiet, I was guaranteed to be sorting all my toys by size. This was so engrossing that I would usually also pee all over the floor. I was otherwise 100% potty trained. For some reasons, this is a very vivid memory for my parents. How's the autism spectrum treating you these days? This is one hit different. My little brother tried flushing a big bird stuffed animal once. My dad had to disassemble the entire toilet to get it out. This one is underrated. I know that must have been a stomach-dropping moment. Have you ever dreamed of owning a timeshare? No, but I've had nightmares about owning one. A nightmare is a dream technically. Oh brother, do you have a moment to learn about an amazing business opportunity? Would you like to become your own boss? Can't you take a joke? Recently had a coworker calling me a skinny bitch, 183m on 70 kilograms here, so I turned around and called him a fat bitch, 1.64m on 100 kilograms. He got mad after that, so I hit him with the old, "Oh, so you can make the jokes but can't take them?" Felt good. But for some reason HR wants a chat with you and not him. Just had a new one today. After finding out my previous partner cheated on me. What could you have done different? You mean what I could have done to stop someone else from cheating on me?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Bruh, I'd go whole hog crazy to really emphasize how stupid the question is. I guess I could have bugged his phone, installed cameras in the bathroom and bedroom, sewn trackers into his clothes and in his car, and followed him around. Could have talked to everyone he's spoken with in the last 3 years to let them know I'll burn their house down if they ever cover for him cheating. What would you have done? Welcome to healthcare. A patient assaults a nurse. Management to nurse. What could you have done differently? Also education. When a student assaults a teacher, from principals or other admin. Did you come here by yourself? And did you tell anyone where you would be? Do you live alone? Also, are you working by yourself? Don't you know a nice guy when you see one? Good people rarely need to tell you they're a good person. Alpha males. 2. If anyone tells you they are one, say, "Oh, I hadn't noticed. Hey, where's my hug?" You just unlocked an old memory with this. I knew someone in undergrad who seriously showed up to class wearing a shirt that said this, "Where's my hug?" written in marker on a white shirt. He stood in front of my desk trying to catch my eye for several minutes before class, and it was incredibly uncomfortable. He kept clearing his throat without saying anything, but I refused to make eye contact and awkwardly pretended not to see what his shirt said. After class, another classmate hugged him and he shouted, finally, while giving me a pointed look. I normally love hugs, but it was a definite nope this time. I'm going to be cringing the rest of the day after reading that. You're not one of those people who get insulted at every little thing, are you? God, I got that one at a job interview once. Ignored it. Should not have. I got mine at a breakaway session of sensitivity training. He kept his job. This kind of syntax asking any question is always a huge, massive red flag to me now. It was one of the main techniques my ex-husband used to groom and control me. You don't want to go out and hang with those weird people without me, do you? You don't want to go to that shitty place and get yourself into trouble, do you? You aren't the type who expects their partner to be sunshine and rainbows 24/7, do you? Usually my response would be a meek no, and if I did push back, the argument was already started with me on the back foot having to justify myself against his reasonableness. When in fact, he was the one using hyperbole to frame my desires as ridiculous, and then assuming what my correct reaction should be as a given to shut the conversation down. all dressed up as care or common sense, when it was purely about controlling both the situation and the narrative. I got dumped by a guy because I answered stuff like that unthinkingly with "of course I am. And it's going to be fun." He called me stupid, and maybe he was right. I'm too thick to be easily manipulated. Not at all. But I am also willing to call people out when they are saying bullshit. You aren't one of those people who are sensitive to being called out on their bullshit? Sure, I can come over next week. Do you happen to live near a school? In my case, it was him asking if my younger sister was a minor because he couldn't go into the house if a minor lived there. He'd been a friend in middle/high school. We'd been friends for years. Then maybe a few years later he went to jail and spent a while on probation. We hung out a few times after he got out of jail. I found out years later that he'd gotten caught with CP. I didn't know about the CP when we agreed to hang out that day. All I knew was that he'd been in jail/was out on probation. Had a friend just randomly fall off the face of the earth. Tried reaching out on every single platform I had his contact info on. Just radio silence. Wound up getting a chance to ask a mutual friend about him years later. Turns out he'd raped a minor, tried to flee the country, and was in jail for the next few decades. Sometimes you think you know a person. Old boss of mine got caught. Everyone loved him. He was cheery and fair and always had time for you no matter how busy he was. One day he disappeared. We found out the following week that he had been arrested in a shop in town taking pictures of schoolgirls' skirts with a camera rig attached to his foot. We were all stunned. You think you know a person. Where's my hug? Do you know how to put out a fire? Actual question, husband asked. After he'd started a grease fire. It's baffling to me how some people weren't taught about that. Why can't you just let it go? I got a version of this from my dad. Sometimes I wish you'd just man up in the middle of an argument. My response was, that's what I've been doing my whole life. 99 out of 100 times. It's the 1 in 100 when I draw a boundary that makes you mad. Why don't you smile more? Why are you so quiet? Guy who used to drive for the company I work for never shut up. Ever. His lips were always flapping. Gums always bumping. He gets out of the car one day and opens the door to his passengers and says to one of them, "Nice talking with you." Without missing a beat, the other dude says, "A conversation goes both ways and you never shut up." My answer, I only really talk around people I'm comfortable with. The best part is when they keep right on blabbering without letting anyone else be able to get a word is edgewise without having to completely talk over top of them. Got a few distant relatives that I actively avoid now because I don't need to put up with that. I have a colleague and a manager like this. They'll ramble on and on and on, then ask if you have any questions and then continue steamrolling right on through so you can't actually say anything or ask a question. Ugh. Yes, a coworker commented that I am so quiet during our all-staff retreat, and that did not make me want to be louder. It doesn't help I have a soft voice, so people sometimes won't hear me when I try to talk. The cylinder removal question. I don't get why it's suspicious. It's a cylinder. It is imperative that the cylinder remains unharmed. Are you, or have you even been, a member of a terrorist organization or engaged in terrorism-related activities? Former banker, I cackled when I read this. This is an innocent-sounding question. While job hunting as a mom, do you have kids? It usually means I won't get the job because they assume I can't/won't be flexible or committed. I don't know any dads who've been asked that question in an interview, but I certainly know a few other women that have. And guess which of us didn't hear back from those jobs? Isn't that an illegal question? I guess I'm not up to date, but I thought it was even illegal for them to follow you to your car to see if you have a child's car seat in it. That probably depends on the country and enforcement. It's technically illegal in the US, but still happens all the time. That and, are you planning to have kids? Similarly, what do you do on weekends can be employers fishing for familial or religious status. Errands and hobbies. The end. Can I ask you a personal question? Is always followed up with the kind of shit that would be reported to HR for sexual harassment. Is your husband home? Do you like gladiator movies? Have you ever seen a grown man naked? Have you ever spent time in a Turkish prison? People who ask for details when being told about sexual abuse. I don't mean everyone, but a lot of them purposely try to word it innocently and honestly. You'd be surprised at how not everyone picks up on it. Trust your gut. So how soundproof are these walls, anyway? Would you describe your skin as pliable? Are you about a size 14? What kind of lotion do you put on your skin? Whatever keeps me from getting the hose again. I don't mean to be mean or condescending, but can I read your journal? A BF in my 20s. Not me thinking, at least he asked first. The bar is in hell. What do your parents do for work? A way to try to figure out if someone grew up with money or without. I usually lie and say my parents work retail. They don't, but it helps weed out people who are superficial. Exactly. This is parallel to somebody asking a whole bunch of questions about career not because they actually care about what you do, but because they're trying to size you up financially. I remember asking this when I was a small child, but we didn't know it had anything to do with class or wealth. It was more of a, my daddy could beat your daddy, situation. Like I know now that my father made good money in insurance, but in little kid land, the daddy who was the firefighter won cause he was coolest. Asking me to come over to your house on our first meeting. I'd also add, I'm going to pick you up for the first date. I don't want you to know where I live yet and I'm not going anywhere where I can't leave the second I want to. I live in a fairly small town in the middle of nowhere, and the last first date I had he wanted to pick me up for, because he wanted it to be a surprise. When I stuck to my guns on driving myself, he eventually sent me the info for a restaurant in the nearest actual city, which is 45 minutes away. Like, if he had picked me up I would have freaked as soon as he got on the highway. He did not get a second date. I'm a lady and I actually did this with a guy once. He asked if I wanted to go over to his place and help him make a recipe he wanted to try out. I said sure, but here's the thing, he was living with one of my best friend's dad, and I had been in that house many times. After the date he went to a party and my friend was there too. He told people about the date and folks were like, is she stupid or just crazy? My friend was like, nah. She's been there plenty. She knows all the escape routes. Can you explain this gap in your employment history? I was enjoying my existence. I'm looking to stop enjoying it now. With your help. Where are you from? America. No, where are your parents from? Just ask me why I'm not white already. JFC. This happened when I worked at a grocery store. The cashier asked a Nigerian woman this and she replied Oregon, and I think he realized it might have been a rude question and he was like, oh, cool. Sorry, and she laughed and was like, I'm just kidding. I'm from Nigeria. One of my parents' seemingly friendly neighbors would ask questions like, did you have a pet when you were a kid? What was their name? Where did you live growing up? She later tried, and failed, to pull a $30K credit card identity theft on my dad. Security questions are not so secure. It's not clear that the answers to those questions helped with the identity theft. But in retrospect the innocence of those questions was lost. Why are you getting so upset? This is a red flag because whoever asks this is likely making the person upset through their own actions. A less abusive version of this question would be, I seem to be making you upset. Can we talk about it? While this is a strong possibility, I have also learned that many people are not taught to phrase things in a more sensitive way as they are growing up, so the behavior preceding this question is important context to determine whether they are actually trying to be sensitive or indeed thoughtless as to how their actions affect others. In the DMs from someone you haven't spoken to in years, hi hun. How are you? Your MLM is bad and you should feel bad. Do you want to know how I got these scars? How much do you make? Someone on a first date asks this, not great. Coworker asks me this. I discuss it with them in class solidarity openly. Men saying, I want to ask you a question, but I don't want to be weird. They already know it's inappropriate. Very few exceptions to that. MO. If I get a bigger bed for my room, do I have more or less bedroom? What do you bring to the table? He sees relationships as a transaction and is hoping to take advantage of me. Sees the conversation as a job interview where he's the interviewer and I'm applying for the privilege of being his girlfriend. Not as an equal partnership that he actually has to put effort into. Have you ever heard the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? But I thought OP said red flag. Have you ever thought about running your own online business? Are you a liberal? Honestly, I would rather see this flag up front and leave immediately. No, I'm a leftist. Fuck. Yeah. Trump is a psycho. Where did she go? Dating in the South. Do you have any drugs or weapons in your vehicle? Anything that's going to stick me, poke me? With those rights in mind, do you still wish to talk to me? Oh, you have a truck? Do you think you could come over on Saturday? I'm having some friends over to help me and have some pizza and beer. It will just be an hour or so. First date. Did you tell anybody where you are going? So when are you planning on having kids? Have you ever tried sugar or PCP? So? Do you have a lot of friends of the opposite sex? Bust this one for sure, but surprisingly, or not, only from dudes. There are a whole demographic of dudes who don't make women friends because they hold nothing of value to me if I'm not in a relationship with me. Like a whole ass group of dudes who straight up say, unless I know we're going to fuck, I don't see value in you at all, and so Eve known women to ask that of guys to suss out if they have women friends because that's a green flag for them. But virtually every time I've heard a guy ask of that, it's always led to some sort of jealousy and attempts at isolation down the road. Where are you from? No. Like where are you actually from? I can't tell you this. There is no direct translation into your Terra-human languages. I had an exchange like this before by a random old person at a grocery store. I'm a black man for context and I speak with a slight country accent, so what prodded this question. So, where are you from? I'm from St. Louis. No, like where are you actually from? Oh, Missouri. No, like what country are you from? The United States. The part where St. Louis, Missouri is. No, like what's your ethnicity? African American. The dude just waved his hand annoyedly and walked off. I wasn't even trying to be mean to him, but now I see questions like those are weird. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. What church do you belong to? I'll one-up you on this. What ward are you from? See, the Mormons in Salt Lake City assume that everyone else there is also a church member and they're just asking which one you go to. At the time that I lived there, they'd be right 50% of the time. We had this at our first house in Texas. Several neighbors would ask. I said we were baby-eating heathens who would burst into flames if we set one foot on holy ground. In perhaps not so many words. One was an older man, took it fine, and was nice for the next 12 years before we moved. One practically ran away and refused to even look at me if I waved to him. I found the easiest way to weed out the weirdo neighbors was to reply, "Ew. No thanks, we're not religious." Normal people won't even ask that questions. And the religious weirdos will get upset and leave you alone. If you really want to have fun, you can say, "Oh, we're not superstitious." I have also used a variation of pleading ignorance as to what if church is, or if God. Once had a very earnest 16-year-old boy try to convert me as I was just trying to take a walk around the lake. Have you ever seen a grown man naked? Do you like movies about gladiators? Have you ever been in a Turkish prison? Oh wait, those are green flags. You're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. As a bartender. So what's your real job? With all due respect, watch out. Some disrespect is on the way. What's your body count? I hate when they know right away I'm a serial killer. Die like dags? I like dogs. I like caravans more. Have you ever danced with the devil under the pale moonlight? Why are you so sensitive? I lived down south for many years. I can't tell you how many men I met who would start with questions like, you know other races were kept as slaves, too. Right, and what followed was never okay. It's a common lost cause hagiography and slavery apologia. That question is instant red flag because you know the man, always a man in my experience, is going to tell you why he thinks slavery wasn't that bad for those held in human bondage. Creeped me out every time over 4 years in Key and Tennessee, not even just in the South. I finally thought to ask if they'd like to be a slave. Not in the US, but I've heard you know black people traded slaves too. I've heard, you know other races besides black people were kept as slaves, my whole life. But I've also heard, did you know some slaves were actually white Europeans? In the South, they will definitely use anything to justify slavery. So do these trolls think that white slaves enjoyed their time as slaves? If they ask to walk at night, especially if the place has a lack of lighting, with you the first night meeting, do not do it. I accidentally got lost at a park on a first date. It was daytime at this point and we ended up on an unlit trail that went around the lake. But we realized it did not loop back to where we started by the time the sun went down. We had to go back where we came from in the dark. It was very sketchy. This made me laugh. About a year ago, I had met someone and our schedules were really conflicting. I remember trying to make plans to hang out the first time and totally innocently mentioned something like, hey, we can just go to a park and have a few beers and talk if you want when I'm done work at midnight. And then 5 minutes later following it with something like, I'm an idiot. I had the best intentions, but it took a few minutes to process it. Ada, we were both in a suburb where there wasn't much open after 9 p.m. Are you sure you're not just overreacting? Like no dude, I am not overreacting. I think someone just broke into my house and scattered my hair outside the back door. I cut it in my bathroom that night and tossed it in the inside trash. I keep having this guy ask about my hair, to touch it, to have it, etc. And I keep thinking, since before finding my hair outside, that I see flashes from outside at night from the back corner of my yard. I am not overreacting for wanting to pay more attention to my surroundings. How's that racist? Usually followed or preceded with a scoff. Where's my hug? Why would I lie? How many bedrooms is your house? Was this person trying to move in with you? Strange question. Any room is a bedroom if you can sleep in it. I slept on my bathroom rug once, but that wasn't on purpose. Do you always hang out with your friends that much? It sounds innocent, but that's often code for going to start isolating you slowly. Does this rag smell like chloroform? So what's your body count? Which kind? Only the one. But the judge ruled it accidental, and it'll be off my record in a year. 2. Wanna see? They're in the basement. Let's move in together after your first date. Something similar happened to me, and it was very toxic and devastating. So, do you live alone? Why are you still single? Those men on dating apps that ask, how old were you when you had your first sexual experience? Don't you trust me? How do you safely remove a cylinder from an M&M's tube? You lost. Boy, do you have a few minutes for me to discuss this amazing job opportunity where you work from home and are your own boss? Can I interest you in dash? Immediate door slam. I'm not interested. In the South, during job interviews, you'd get this one. What do you do on the weekends? If at least part of your answer wasn't to go to evangelical Christian church, you didn't get the job. Hopefully it's changed now, but I really doubt it. Asking if you're a smoker in a job interview, if it's not related to the job, it means even a few breaks will be a big deal. In the US, there are companies that forbid tobacco use, even off the job, not on the clock, away from company premises. They include nicotine in their routine drug testing, too. There were lawsuits over this in the 90s, and the workers lost. Smokers by that point had become a decidedly unsympathetic litigant class. I would expect companies like this to ask this question. I'm not a smoker, but I consider an interest in one's legal activities conducted away from work and on one's own time to be a major red flag. It's the sign of an overly intrusive, low-quality employer. And I will run away screaming. Do you have close friend who is a guy? How do you explain this gap in your resume? Ugh. This one drives me so on. Like, who cares? Not once have I ever asked an interviewee this. You're not entitled to their life story just because you might hire them. Usually, it's because they're trying to find out if you're a parent or if you left a job off the resume or if you have health issues. I was in Yale. Yale? That's great. You're hired. Thank you, sir. I really need this job. Oh, I got pregnant. I'm male. Were you aware that methamphetamine was addictive? Can you see me in my office for a sec? What were you wearing? Regarding being hit on or assaulted, is your husband here with you? Do you read your Bible? I'm from a big city on the West Coast and was raised Catholic. My husband, then fiancé, took me to meet his aunt in Western North Carolina. One of the first things she asked me, "Are ye a Christian girl?" I was 32. Have you heard about Jesus Christ? Do I look fat? What do you think a person would taste like slathered with barbecue sauce and straight off the grill? Pork. Wait, I meant to say, I'm sure nobody knows. This thread is a goldmine of absurdity. So what do you do in your free time in regards to job interviews? Do you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Have you ever, under the influence of alcohol, questioned the teachings of the Mormon Church? What's your IQ? No. I mean, where are you really from? Don't you know who I am? 37? Have you a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? Have you heard the good news? What innocent-sounding question is actually a massive red flag? How much does your job pay? We honestly need to normalize this question between colleagues. If the relationship is getting serious and you plan on living together / having a family, this is a valid question. Maybe not on a first date though. Are you cool with dark humor that some people might find offensive? As a white person, 99% of the time the dark humor is racism. How many cops does it take to change a light bulb? 5. But they don't change it, they just beat it for being dark. Now be fair. There's at least a good 40% rape jokes. How many farts are allowed? Who else knows about this? Oh, why are you treating me this way? My ex. In response to my help, kindness, and overall sheer lack of annoyance / anger when they accidentally broke a glass bottle of cleaner and freaked out. I thought it was a red flag since maybe their family abused them, and that well may be the case for others, but it was a red flag because when I did something similar, they just screamed at me and called me stupid. So yes, the surprise questions regarding my empathy when others made mistakes, some small, some not, seemed innocent but was actually a major red flag and showed how they were not capable of comprehending how people and react kindly in the face of accidents, and how they were not capable of empathy largely. What do you do for work / a living can often be classist as hell and a method for asserting control / dominance over others in a conversation. Not always, but a lot of people are all too eager to mention their job / finances early on to make others feel small. We need to talk. We're like a family here, whenever you're speaking with HR at a job interview. That is hint that the environment is toxic as hell. Steer clear of these jobs. I've had to deal with this twice. My parents aren't home. Are you coming over? Sorry you feel that way. What? You're mad? What's your sign? Astrology followers are never safe. Pyrex. I'm a test tube baby. Just give them your frequency and amplitude. No need to be rude. What sign were you born under? No smoking. But they may be fun. It's the sign of the Holy Cross, and look them dead in the eye. There are a few answers. Unicorn and Mike's insert planet is in tardigrade work in English. In Greek, there are a few more answers. Mu omicron nu kappa epsilon rho omicron. Translation: a unicorn, rhino, both rhyme with Capricorn, Pisces, and specifically anchovy. The nickname of the sports team Olympiacos, my Mercury is in the sideway, rhymes with retrograde. I always make something up and let them tell me how they just knew it. I might even ask follow-up questions. Does Israel have a right to defend itself? As a Jew, I sometimes get this out of the blue, and it's like, you're only asking me because I'm Jewish. Which is like asking an African American person's opinion about Liberia. Like, I'm just American. Don't fucking go there because you think you'll catch me in some kind of a gotcha question. The only thing I hear when someone asks me that is of, are you one of the good Jews? You know, the socially acceptable Jews, the only Jews who are valid Jews? It's fucking insulting. Yeah, I have opinions like anyone else, but asking that out of the blue, or on the first date, fuck off. Yes, it does. That is not defense. Which kidney is your favorite? So how much do you make a year? What's Tatter's precious? Does this look infected to you? What church do you go to? I got that in a job interview recently. Do you even lift myself out of bed almost every morning? Yes. Mommy, when I'm done putting stickers on the TV, can I put more on the wall? So, where do you stand on that whole Holocaust thing? Where are you really from? Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire? Sweetie Pumpkin, do you want to join the Columbia Record Club? But I bought you a drink? Where do you live? In an interview. Or your age? Both are illegal questions to ask. Interviewers do it anyway. What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Anytime you start with a negative undertone to ask a question or make a statement, you probably don't want to hear this, but don't get offended, but this might upset you. But I'm now in high alert and feel like I need to brace myself to what is going to follow and more likely to get offended when I probably actually wouldn't have. I feel like these sentences starters are negative thinkers that now spilled their negative energy to you before even beginning the conversation. Just say what you have to say or ask. At a job interview for an overseas UK military school. Unfortunately, the previous teacher was too much of a family man to fit in with as school names, work ethos. Do you have children of your own? I told the interview panel, thank you for the opportunity, but I am also a family-orientated man and I won't be continuing this interview. You should smile more. Great way for narcissists or other oppressive types to say you should just fake it and feign happiness because they don't like to deal with the implication that a situation they probably benefit from is most likely shit for others. A man asking a woman, what do you bring to the table? A fat ass and an unsettling aura. Whatevs. Why specifically a man to a woman? This just sounds like you want to get something out of a relationship other than love. Why is this different than a woman asking a man the same question? Do you believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Nah. I do dig his neighbor Brian though. Do you like movies about gladiators? Do babies fit in the microwave? What floor? If they haven't already pressed a button when you get on an elevator at a hotel. Why are you so sensitive? Would you be willing to try this on? Why is it so quiet? Said during recess in the teacher's room when our very loud and rambunctious elementary school students all went very suddenly silent all at once. Never have I seen so many teachers run so fast in my life, like the ladies kicking their heels off and running in stockings. The male teachers literally taking corners so hard they slammed into lockers like it's Mario Kart. Turns out 2 kids smacked their heads right at the eyebrow and blood was just everywhere. Do you live here by yourself? Where are you originally from? Daddy, would you like some sausages? Is it okay if we make a quick detour to my cabin in the woods? Where are you really from? How many kids you want on the second week of talking? Have you ever wanted to be your own boss? Including or not including gang violence? If someone asks this, they are most likely a massive bigot.